Greetings, magical souls. Today, I'd like to share another little session that I had. This came up while I was revisiting all of my animal sessions in my project Treasure. And I realized that I hadn't shared much about this little parrot that I had the opportunity to speak to. So I've got my notes here. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Em. I am an animal communicator amongst various other things, but I am often sharing some of my sessions that I have done with the animals. I had a short on this when I was still on Instagram, and I shared a little bit about this beautiful little parrot, but I want to share something else because I thought it was worth sharing. And this little guy was really one of the wisest teachers that I ever had. What really came out from this session is that I realized that animals, I think we know this, but it's something that really hit me and landed for me, is that animals live differently. Because this little guy wasn't trying to impress anyone with some mystical wisdom, he was rather simply describing what it feels like to be alive as the little bird that he is. And that's exactly why it's profound. And this will be one of the sessions that will always stand out for me amongst all of the ones that I've done. I mean, I don't talk to many birds, but he was just fascinating. So this was a beautiful little Senegal parrot. To be honest, I didn't know what to expect because I think that he was only my second bird that I'd spoken to. And so I'd assumed that we were going to talk about, I don't know, maybe bird things like what he likes to do in his cage and things like that. Favorite toys, favorite foods, possibly a little bit of how he feels about his environment or his relationship with his human family. But instead, this tiny little parrot gave me one of the deepest lessons that I've ever received. He spoke of his human guardian, who is what we would call special needs. And this parrot never once described his human guardian that way, not once. Instead, he talked only about connection, understanding, their friendship, and curiosity. And it really made me realize that animals never meet us through the labels that we seem to give ourselves in this world, but they always meet us through presence and through their essence. And then in the middle of all this very profound conversation around his human and their beautiful relationship and whatever, he proceeded to tell me, I'm not just a pretty face. And I actually burst out laughing in the session because then it actually made me realize how often we reduce animals to their appearance. We assign words to them and say, oh, maybe they're cute, or maybe they're sweet, or, maybe they're fluffy, or whatever it is, or maybe they're, I guess, sometimes even insightful in that. But this bird was basically showing me that every single being is conscious and having their own unique experience. And more than anything, he wanted me to know that he was more than his looks, because, of course, with this beautiful green and red and white and all these beautiful colors that he had, he wanted me to know that he was more than just a pretty face. And then he began to tell me all about his fascination with pineapple. Yes, pineapple of all things. And then his fascination with touch, his fascination with his own feathers. And then he shared with me that he'd never, ever been a bird like this before. So imagine experiencing feathers for the first time. Imagine flight. Imagine the colors. And imagine tasting fruit through a beak. Everything simply becomes extraordinary. And then he gave me a request to share with his human family. He said, tell me what you're doing. Now, this was one of my favorite parts of the session because he genuinely wanted to understand. He wanted to understand why humans did the things that they did. And not because he needed to know how, but simply because learning delighted him. He just wanted to know more. He wanted to learn. He wanted to understand. But there's a difference between wanting to know and just actually delighting in almost the finding out, if that makes any sense. And so, with all that I learned from this delightful and spunky little guy, I started to wonder about things. And so, I'll pose these questions to you too. When was the last time you truly noticed your morning coffee, the birds outside, perhaps your dog's eyes, or even the person that you've simply been living beside for 20 years or more? Perhaps animals don't come here simply to comfort us. Perhaps they're quietly demonstrating another way of living, one filled with curiosity, wonder, presence, and even joy. And so perhaps the world hasn't really lost its magic at all. Perhaps it's more a case of that us as human beings have just forgotten how to notice it. And that's what I really love about speaking to all of these animals, is they remind me of things that I may have forgotten. So thank you for being here. I hope that you enjoyed this little message from this beautiful, wise little parrot. And wherever you are, wishing you a magical rest of your day.